Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we're tackling something you literally see every single day, but I bet you've probably never thought about it on a microscopic cellular level. I'm talking about height. Being tall is practically universally seen as the ultimate physical advantage, right? But the actual data? It tells this deeply fascinating and honestly surprisingly double-edged story. Get this. There's a quote drawn straight from the research that perfectly captures this, stating, "Being tall is a social win, but a biological nightmare," which is just incredibly counterintuitive. We've all been deeply conditioned to equate height with health, with success, and with power. But new data from 2026 actually shows that every extra inch you have might literally be shaving months off your life. Researchers are calling this the height paradox, and it reveals an enormous amount about what your biological future actually looks like. Okay, let's dive right into this core tension. Think of it like we're all constantly navigating two totally different clocks ticking away simultaneously. On one hand, we have societal time. This is where being tall gets you the social wins, higher average income, and that perceived authority. It's your lived everyday experience just walking around in the world. But on the other hand, we have biological time. And this is the hidden, microscopic reality of increased cellular mutation and, statistically, a shorter overall lifespan. It's this fundamental clash between what society rewards and what human biology can actually endure. Section 1. The social advantage, or winning the perception game. Let's start with what we all kind of instinctively know already, and let's validate those pre-existing biases. Because out in the real world, having a larger physical presence comes with a massive, measurable psychological edge over the competition. We call this the height leadership advantage. It's an established psychological phenomenon where taller folks are automatically perceived as more authoritative, and as a direct result of that, they earn higher average incomes. It perfectly illustrates our societal bias. It is an undeniable, massive social and financial win. If you're tall, society practically hands you a megaphone and a bigger paycheck literally just for walking into the room. Which brings us to Section 2. The biological cost, the cellular downside. So, the crucial point here is what exactly is the hidden tax on that social advantage? This is where we got to pivot to that biological nightmare we mentioned earlier. The costs associated with being tall are completely invisible to the naked eye, but they are constantly, quietly accumulating in the background. 10 to 15%. Take a second and just let that number sink in. This isn't some minor, negligible little variable. The research shows that for every 10 centimeters of added height, your risk of cancer increases by roughly 10 to 15%. It's a stark, really sobering statistic that basically turns our whole standard understanding of physical advantage completely upside down. When you compare a baseline cancer risk against the risk for someone just 10 centimeters taller, you can clearly see that significant jump. And the math behind this? Well, it's brilliantly simple, yet honestly a bit chilling. Taller individuals quite literally just have more cells in their bodies. That's it. And more cells simply mean more cell divisions over a lifetime, which statistically increases the mathematical chances of a cellular mutation occurring. It's basically a relentless numbers game happening at the microscopic level every second of the day. Moving on to Section 3, the science of shortness built for longevity. So, if being tall is a cellular liability, what about the other end of the spectrum? Let's shift our focus to the surprisingly potent built-in biological advantages of having a smaller physical frame. Now, what's really interesting about this data is looking at the people who actually managed to hit the century mark. Research indicates a really strong inverse relationship between height and lifespan. When scientists study centenarians, those rare, fascinating individuals living past 100 years old, they consistently find a much higher percentage of shorter than average people. The longest-running engines, it seems, overwhelmingly come in smaller packages. And the secret to this might actually lie in something called the FOXO3 gene. A smaller body size is frequently linked to this specific biological marker, which is often dubbed the longevity gene. Think of FOXO3 as your body's built-in cellular bodyguard. It actively protects against cellular aging. So while society is super busy handing taller people leadership roles in corner offices, biology is quietly handing shorter people far superior DNA defense systems. And this brilliantly illustrates why that smaller package is so incredibly durable over time. A shorter body fundamentally requires less energy to operate day in and day out. Over the course of 80-plus years, that translates to significantly less general wear and tear, and, critically, a drastically reduced strain on vital organs like your heart. A smaller body just doesn't have to pump blood quite as far or work quite as hard against gravity. It is, simply put, a radically more efficient machine. Finally, Section 4, the ultimate trade-off, reconciling the paradox.
Let's pull this all together for our grand conclusion. We have the societal data, and we have the biological reality. Now we gotta look at them side by side to truly grasp the weight of this information. On one side, you have the tall CEO, armed with the height leadership advantage, pulling in a higher income and commanding greater authority in literally every boardroom they enter. But on the other side, you have the short centenarian, shielded by FOXO3 gene protection, operating with pristine metabolic efficiency, and cruising comfortably right past their 100th birthday. The ultimate irony of the height paradox is right here in front of us. The tall, authoritative executive making all that extra money statistically has fewer biological years on this earth to actually spend it.
Which brings us to the final question of this explainer. Knowing what the data clearly shows about how society treats us versus how our cells actually age, what would you choose? Would you rather have the immediate social power and financial perks of height, or the long-term biological resilience and longevity of being short? It is the ultimate trade-off between how we live and how long we live. Think about your own biology today and let that paradox sink in.